where are you at on your wealth journey, would you say?
I'm 10% of the way in. So 10% means that I'm in a place where I know what I want to do. I've got some skills to do it. I've got everything ready to now just push forward and start creating the impact I want to create. At the moment, running basically 3 businesses, all connected. Found a media group as an overall company, and we're all about helping more Kiwis learn the knowledge, get the understanding, develop the confidence to turn their ideas for businesses and social enterprises into reality. I've been on the journey myself for 20 odd years, practicing building businesses, trying a whole bunch of things. I've got my butt kicked in so many ways in business, it's not funny, but that is, that's enabling me now to pass a lot of that knowledge and experience on. This is what my first business looked like. For those of you who don't know what this is a 2.5-inch floppy disk, which contains my first business called Real Books for Real Estate.
What kind of legacy, I suppose, are you wanting to leave?
The understanding, knowledge and confidence to be able to chase those dreams and execute on those visions. And by doing that at a greater scale for more Kiwis, I want to help 50,000 New Zealanders over the next 10 years learn how to start businesses.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Richard. About your thing about it being unprepared is that was a big focus for us to make it more like a conversation.
Absolutely.
And selfishly because we're both really busy and we didn't want to be a bit of a bottleneck in terms of making sure that it was always current events or we had to do a lot of work to prepare it.
Yeah.
And that's why we thought that having conversations about what wealth ultimately means to people, or kind of really just finding out a little bit about their journey, was a really great thing. And we believe that it's pretty fundamental for helping people as a long tail with financial literacy ultimately, which is what we're trying to solve with, I guess, the business that we're building behind the podcast. Yeah.
It's good. We need more of it. Full stop.
Totally. That's what we're finding.
And
it's actually it's all about preparing people to be in a position where they're anti-fragile.
Yeah, well, it's just ridiculous. We don't teach it in schools. Well, not when I was there, and certainly not when my kids went through.
Yeah,
so
same.
It's like you just learn somehow through the universe. Trial and error. Maybe do what your parents did.
Yeah.
And if that's wrong, then
Or do the opposite.
Or
Exactly.
Exactly.
Do
Do
the
the
opposite.
opposite.
Yeah.
Learn from that.
Yeah.
But we got to destroy this whole taboo about money. And
Talking about money,
absolutely.
for sure.
That is holding us back big time. So
we're doing this. We're working on this new product. It's more of a service within the business, where we're helping employers and their employees with their financial well-being. And there's so much productivity loss, so much stress around kind of people's finances, and it's kind of the backbone of their well-being, we find. Like you say, there's this whole taboo around talking about money, and then there's a lot of shame around people's financial situations, and it's it's not, it's not that bad. There's always a way to get through. It's just having a bit of a plan often helps. Yeah.
So where are you at on your wealth journey, would you say?
I'm 10% of the way in.
10%?
Yep.
So what does 10% look like for you?
So 10% means that I'm in a place where I know what I want to do. Mm-hmm. I've got some skills to do it. I've got everything ready to now just push forward and start creating the impact I want to create. I feel like I've been in training for about 20 odd years.
Wow.
Just to get to the start line.
Yeah.
Which is super exciting.
So what are you working on at the moment?
So at the moment, running sort of basically 3 businesses, all connected. So found a media group as, I guess, our overall company, and we're all about helping more Kiwis learn the knowledge, get the understanding, develop the confidence to turn their ideas for businesses and social enterprises into reality. So I've been on the journey myself for 20 odd years, practicing building businesses, trying a whole bunch of things. I've got my butt kicked in so many ways in business, it's not funny.
Yeah.
But that is, that's enabling me now to pass a lot of that knowledge and experience on through our various brands and companies.
Yeah, I had a look on your the NZ Entrepreneur website, and it kind of took me through to the startup program that you're kind of working on. Can you talk us Talk to us a bit about that.
Yeah, so Startup NZ, it's an online serve yourself, always on, or it's always there for you program. You can go along and sign yourself up, and we'll take you through 12 lessons which are going to teach you basically modern startup methodology, right? So the whole point is helping you to go from idea to launch in as quick a manner as possible, reducing a lot of the variables, and we're going to save you heaps of time, effort, tears, money by giving you a bit of process. Because again, no one teaches you this stuff, right? Even if I did a Bachelor of Commerce at uni, and knew less about making money when I came out than the guy who used to shine shoes on Parnell Rise, right? Who was out there creating value. And for so many of us Kiwis, we've got all the potential in the world. And if you've got a business idea or a social enterprise idea, you've got that idea because you should be pursuing it, either to figure out that, yes, that's what you want to keep going with, or no, actually, I thought I wanted that, but now I've decided that it's actually not quite what I want, and I can redirect and now move on to the next thing. But the whole startup process is, if you don't know what you're doing, it's overwhelming, and you're going to learn by trial and error. As I said, it's taken me 20 odd years just to get to the start line. And so a lot of the stuff we teach in the program is how you can save all that time and do it more safely, and increase your chances of being successful. Basically. Yeah.
What a cool thing to be a part of. I can't imagine, how the community, the small business community reacted when they saw that as an option to partake in. Did you have much uptake in the beginning?
Yeah, so when we launched Startup NZ, it was just at the very end of 2019, early 2020. And
Interesting
then
timing.
COVID hit. We had our first lockdown here in New Zealand in March, I think it was. And immediately we were inundated with Kiwis who being made redundant, losing jobs, businesses closing, can't work, they're sat at home reassessing their lives. Is this really what I want to be doing? And we had a whole bunch of people decide that they wanted to pursue their entrepreneurial spirit within themselves. And so that was good timing. Immediately we partnered up with Business Mentors New Zealand because they were overwhelmed with people wanting mentors. And so we were able to help with that load quickly and at scale, helping, I think we helped 150 odd business owners in the first week. And new business owners, working on new ideas and getting their ventures up and running.
Okay, so what do you think the catalyst was for you to start creating that program? For you, like, what was your catalyst?
My catalyst was my daughters.
Yeah.
Who would, I just thought to myself, right, if my daughters ever come to me, and my wife, co-founder, and they said, Mum, Dad, I've got a business idea, what do I do next? I thought to myself, well, what am I going to tell them? What do I wish I would have known, and what do I know other founders wish they would have known as well? All right, so I talk to founders all day, every day. It's pretty much just what I do. And so it sort of planted the seed in the back of my mind, right, well, it's 2019 at the time, 2020. Surely someone's built a very easily scalable, low-cost, light-touch online program for New Zealanders wanted to know how to do this, and they hadn't.
Yeah.
And so at the time it was like, all right, let's just go and do that. So built it to serve them.
Yeah. That's a cool thing.
And had to make sure that it was going to be understandable by a 16-year-old and a 21-year-old at the time, right? But equally that anyone from any background and any education level could also engage with the program and get results.
Okay. So where do you think you get your mindset from? Is it something that you grew up with, or did you have events happen to you throughout your life and it changed? Interesting
question. So the Rich Dad, Poor Dad books, Robert Kiyosaki, right? I'm a big fan. My own unique experience, though, I like to think of it as rich granddad, poor granddad. So on my dad's side, he's Malaysian Chinese, his dad was an entrepreneur. He borrowed some money, shortly after the Second World War, invested in orchids and built an orchid farm, became very wealthy. My mum's dad, she's Pākehā New Zealander, again came back from the war, and he basically had to work 3 jobs at once to keep his family of 7 kids going.
Whoa, okay.
They lived in state housing area in Porirua, Wellington. And so I was exposed to both sides. And for whatever reason, once I got out of school, or actually last year's in school, I've just always been committed to personal development, learn everything I can. Getting on that journey started right back then with, some books, whatever I could find, just on, how do we make the most of this opportunity we all have right here on this earth,
Did you have a moment where you were like, right, 9 to 5 is not for me?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Okay. So that looked like me in my accounting job. Shortly after uni, I went on and became an accountant for 2.5 years. I think I lasted before I realised I was so bored.
Yeah.
The only part of that I enjoyed was getting to meet the business owners and seeing a little bit about the insides of how business worked. And I saw that they got to do whatever they want, with their own time, with all the responsibility, of course, of building a business. And I knew that was where I wanted to go. And so, the moment that dawned on me, I basically just handed my notice in and actually started my first business. My first attempt to just get into it.
Yep. What did that look like?
Okay, so this is not going to be so good for the people listening, but this is what my first business looked like.
Okay.
And you may...
That's going back a wee bit.
This. Exactly. Yeah. So this, for those of you who don't know what this is a 2.5-inch floppy disk, which contains my first business called Real Books for Real Estate.
Yes.
So I keep a couple of these on me at all times. So that was 2000, my first business experience. Quit my accounting job and put together a bunch of spreadsheets and just started selling them to small business owners and real estate agents. And that just reminds me of the beginning of the journey, if you like. Keep your head, feet on the ground.
Yep.
So I managed to sell enough of these spreadsheets somehow for a year, paid the rent, and that gave me also 1 year's sales experience to go on my CV.
Yeah.
Which I was then able to use, and I went and got a real sales job for a real company with real products, selling payment solutions, FPOS terminals, and all that kind of stuff for a company in Ponsonby. It was a listed point-of-sale company, and I just learned everything I could about selling for the next 2.5 years, and that was when I was introduced to the startup world here in New Zealand. The Ice House. I was seconded to one of the first companies that went through the Ice House incubator program. That was back in 2002. And so I had 6 months in there in Parnell, surrounded by what was becoming the beginnings of New Zealand's startup ecosystem.
Okay. What would you say was the biggest learning you took away once you wound up your first company?
So I'll never forget the first sale I made.
Okay.
Creating a product with myself, then cold calling and organising meetings and appointments and going out and doing a presentation to a business owner, showing them how it worked, and then they said, yes, I'll buy that. Here's $250 or whatever it was. So my takeaway was, it is possible. You don't need to know how to do any of that stuff. I had no sales experience before I started selling.
Okay.
I had no business experience before I started business, right? This is logical, but people use this as an excuse not to get started all the time. I don't have this experience, I don't have this knowledge, I don't have these connections, I don't have this money. And so they make excuses for not starting.
Yeah.
And that's my biggest takeaway. Start early, start now. If you want to get on the journey today, right now.
So it's not necessarily about being perfect and getting everything bang on the first time.
Absolutely not. No, you can't be perfect and get it bang on first time. Well, you can, but that's an anomaly.
Yeah.
That's an exception to the rule, right?
Yeah.
And if you're waiting for all the stars to align and everything to be perfect and for your product to be perfect and for you to be perfect so that you can now go and start this business, you will be waiting forever. And, I meet so many people with business ideas and all the skills and talents in the world. But every year I say, how are you going with this? How's it coming along? And they're still just thinking about it, just getting things ready. They're getting ready to get ready.
Yes.
Well, it's also often two extremes. Like I would say, not starting, or starting and then having a lot of ideas and then changing, maybe too much, right? Like before you know if it's going to work, maybe pivoting too early or finding the new shiny idea. It depends on where you're at in the spectrum of obviously what your skill sets are and what your kind of tendencies are. But it often is in the extremes of inertia versus potentially too many decisions being made and too many pivots. I've always observed that, I guess, in a sense, even in myself, being like, am I going off to the next thing too quickly, rather than focusing on, there's obviously always 100 things you can focus on, but it's about picking the right ones. But always what I think is good though, is obviously if you're always progressing 1% a little bit more every day, then at least you're kind of making those decisions, which is what you were saying, kind of is probably the biggest holding, which holds most people back, is actually never starting. That's probably the biggest barrier. And then it's probably not focusing the second.
How do you work with people who have an idea and they're talented and, that you come back to them every year and they're like, I haven't quite started yet, I don't have it quite ready. How would you help them get over that hurdle? What advice would you give them to actually, because it's a mindset thing, right?
Absolutely, it's a mindset. And it comes down to our beliefs, our subconscious beliefs, all of this programming. So for people to say, look, Richard, I just don't have time. I don't quite have the money. I don't have... The point is, look, yes, some things will require money. If I want to go and build a 6-star hotel in central Auckland, I need money, right? And so a lot of people say, well, I don't have the money, so I can't start. If you're serious, though, about building your entrepreneurial muscle, you get started with whatever idea, the smallest idea you can take action on now, right? And you implement, you execute, you learn, and you try and get some success. Just try and sell one of your products. That you're going to learn so much from just that exercise. And if you don't have time, no time to what? Chase your dreams.
Yeah.
That's so sad if you think about it.
When you put it like that, it's quite confronting, right?
Correct, absolutely. And at the end of the day, we as adults, especially in a country like New Zealand, we have the ability, the freedom to say, you know what, I'm going to take half an hour of my evening or get up half an hour earlier and I'm going to read that book. I'm going to learn about how to do this thing. I'm going to watch these YouTube videos. I'm going to draft up my landing page. I'm going to prepare a pitch or a proposal or work on a prototype of something I want to make. Half an hour a day, start with that, because while everyone else is watching Netflix.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Right? Yeah. If you're serious about this, and you've got to get deeply in touch with your inner being in terms of what is it I really, really want? What do I want to try at least? If not, be successful at, and just make that decision. Am I serious or not? If I'm serious, I'm going to find 15 minutes a day even, right, just to start working on it. Because, they say where focus goes, energy flows.
Yep.
And so you may not have money to start investing or to put towards this business idea. What you can start investing, though, instead of money is your time.
Yeah.
Right. And that ultimately is a personal decision. And you're either going to value yourself and your future, your potential enough to make that decision, or you're not. And if you're not, that's fine too.
Do you think it's a tension for change? I know that's a real gimmicky kind of saying, but for some people, they're not in a bad enough situation, or it's not uncomfortable enough for them to actually go, oh, shit, I actually really need to do something different if I want a different outcome.
Yeah, it's the sad reality of how we generally function as humans is we will do more to move away from pain than we will to move towards gain. And so only when we've had that heart attack will we think, maybe I need to look at my diet and my exercise. Only when our partners left us do we maybe think, how did I contribute to this? You know, what about my personality or my behaviour has done something to this? So we only generally pull finger when things get bad
when
enough.
we're forced to.
When you're forced to. You know, that's why they say, right, necessity is the mother of invention. So I say, bring on the pain, bring on those challenges, those things that maybe you're not feeling so good about, because they're trying to tell you something.
Yeah.
And if you listen, you'll figure out what it is.
There's nothing bad about being uncomfortable necessarily, right?
No. Yeah.
So you work with, like you've said, quite a lot of founders. Is there characteristics that you see in all of them that are similar? Or, do they come from similar backgrounds or similar lifestyles, or it's their differences that's the similar thing about them, if that makes any sense?
So entrepreneurs come in all shapes, sizes, forms, all ages, walks of life, skin colour and genders. And that's as it should be. What they have in common is a bias for action, right, to borrow a term from Global Entrepreneurship Network New Zealand. So they are very... So a lot of people talk about the problems in the world.
Yeah.
They love to, right? It's something to talk about, and we can point fingers and complain and wish things were better. Entrepreneurs don't just talk about it, they actually say, what can I do about this? And they have a bias for action. They will take steps. They will put 15 minutes aside a day to start working on this idea, or to go networking, or to meet investors or whatever. That's the key thing that all of them have in common. They have overcome all the perceived limitations, mostly limitations we put on ourselves.
Yeah.
Most of them, especially when they're doing it the first time, suffer intensely from imposter syndrome, right? Because when you're doing something the first time, the little voice inside your head says, well, I'm not sure if I can do this. They go ahead and do it anyway, and that is the difference. That is why eventually they will succeed. It may take a few times around the racetrack, but that's what makes them outliers.
Are you seeing more variety in age now, I suppose, as opposed to maybe 10 years ago? Are you getting younger people, or alternatively, are you getting people who are in their 60s and they're like, actually, retirement is around 65 and it's not looking that good for me at the moment. Is there something else I can do?
Definitely. So if I think back 20 odd years ago, .com times, not many people knew really what an entrepreneur did, or if you said you were an entrepreneur, what it actually meant was you weren't qualified for anything else, and maybe you do some shifty stuff to try and just make fast money from whatever you can. So now though, studies have shown that becoming an entrepreneur is like the top career choice for Gen Z, which is fantastic. Right? And as I like to joke, even my mum now knows what a startup is. So we're getting younger entrepreneurs coming through, and thanks to things like the Young Entrepreneurs, Young Enterprise Scheme, the YES program, run by Young Enterprise Trust, teaching entrepreneurial skills to people in primary and secondary schools all around New Zealand. We're seeing entrepreneurs now coming out of school with businesses that they've started in high school, and not needing to get a job because they've got their own business to get on with. So that's really cool. And on the other end of the spectrum, we're getting more people, seniors, also wanting to learn how to do this, right? So they've had their career, they've been through the corporate world maybe, or whatever trade they're in, but we're living longer.
Yes.
Right? So, and man, if you're lucky enough to get a pension, that's not enough to live on.
Yep.
So we're seeing definitely more people in later stages of life realising that, holy crap, I need to figure out how I'm going to make money for the next 30 years, right? Because, I'm facing ageism, trying to get a job,
yes,
which is terrible. So they're forced to again, take matters into their own hands and see what they can do, under their own terms.
That's cool to hear.
Would you say it's it's cyclical and it's now because of the freedom of time and circumstance that the pandemic provided? Now less people are starting businesses, or would you say that it's kind of created a new normal?
I'm not sure what the figures are, because there's obviously a lag, like right for now.
But in terms of like inquiries perhaps now and boots on the ground, kind of anecdotal.
I think, again, as humans, we love our comfort zones. So when our world gets turned upside down, then all of a sudden, yes, we're forced to look for different answers. And when the world goes back to business as usual, often though we go back to business as usual.
Yeah.
And so that pressure or that need or that opportunity, when it's taken sort of off the cooker, we just revert back to the status quo. Mm-hmm. And so unless you have really deep internal desire, or you've managed to stay in touch with that because you're giving a little bit of focus to it every day and you're keeping that flame alive, then and look, life is difficult, right? It's tough times out there for pretty much everyone. And so, trying to figure out how do I take my life to the next level through business or social enterprise while keeping the wheels turning with everything I've got to look after, it's parents or, you've got a mortgage to pay, you've got jobs, you've got travel, whatever it might be. So, yeah, I anecdotally, I don't see evidence that, well, that's a mismatch in terms, I know that, but I'm not seeing the appetite for business declining. We're still, we're meeting new entrepreneurs all the time. They are absolutely out there. Maybe though, it would be common sense that it's the speed or it's just come off a bit. Especially, we're sitting at the moment in a 2-year recession.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Apparently. You mentioned earlier that your partner is the co-founder with you on your startup. When you guys, was it a conversation you two had fairly on in your relationship around, this is what I would like out of life, this is where I want to go, is this what you want as well? Or did that kind of evolve naturally over time?
Well, we met at work selling FPOS terminals.
Yep.
And, I believe, right, where everything is energy attracts like energy. So chances are that the people you attract into your life are at some level going to have similar viewpoints around life, their beliefs, what they want out of life potentially, especially hopefully if it's your life partner.
Yep.
Hopefully you've got a shared common vision or value system at least, about what you're wanting in life. And if one wants, option A and the other is going for option Z, possibly you'll find that just organically
it doesn't last.
You're probably not going to, exactly last the distance, so to speak. But both of us are very clear about, we don't want to just do we both met in the corporate environment, could have stayed there quite happily, climbed the ladder and all that kind of stuff, but no, neither of us were sort of up for that. We both wanted to live on our own terms and try ourselves to do something. So, we started our first business together maybe within 12 months of meeting.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, sold the house, put everything all in, quit our jobs.
Wow, risky.
And went on and built a recruitment company, which we ran for 6 years.
Yeah. And so what were some of the key learnings that you guys took away with that particular company, do you think?
Again, so I've never started a business where I had any industry experience. So we had no recruitment experience when we started our recruitment agency.
Wow.
But we knew that we could do it better. And went on and, started from scratch, as I said, a little bit of seed funding by selling our house and built up a really good client list, had 6 or 7 consultants working for us at one stage by the end of it. And again, it just cemented to me that all these excuses we tell ourselves for why we can't do something, especially around I don't have the experience. Well, if you really are passionate about solving that problem for that group of people, get on with it and you'll soon get the experience you need. We also learned a lot about working together as a husband and wife team.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah, so needless to say, first few years, a lot of headbutting, a lot of figuring out our different working styles. Despite having the same end goals as pictures, the way we go about things is quite different.
Yeah.
And that's fine. It actually makes for a good team. But you have to learn, especially if you're personally, romantically involved, or you got to learn each other's boundaries, absolutely determining your sandpits.
Yep.
This is your sandpit here, and you stay in there, and then this is mine, and I stay here. And then we've got a joint one when we need to do things together or make decisions around that. And then doing your best to remember that when you're having a conversation at work, you're not Richard and Jennifer, you are the CEO and sales manager, or you are the recruitment leader and the CFO, having to have the actual business discussions that you need, which there may be disagreement on, but it's not personal. But it is actually quite difficult to separate that. There are many successful husband and wife, business owners out there in relationships together personally. But there's also many who have tried, and it could actually become something that ends up becoming too big for you as a couple, and could actually
blow it up,
be quite detrimental, and blow that up.
Yeah, or you have to just adjust it. I think it's interesting you were talking about the same direction. I guess it's like a bit of a Venn diagram of where the overlap is in business, but also then in your relationship, because I would say, for my partner and I, we probably, I'd say from a values perspective overlap massively. But then I think what we would probably choose to do with our free time is quite different. Do you know what I mean? And it is interesting that over time how then it does merge more as well, right? So you have to kind of give things in business or in real life the time to have that kind of natural conclusion or natural kind of merging process. You said for the first couple of years it was a lot of knocking heads, and then I guess over time you get to a point where you're like, okay, this is the ways of working. I can't remember what it came from, but Ab was talking to me as my co-founder and business partner, and he was talking about when new teams come together, they do storming, and that's when they're working out what's going on, they're working out the boundaries, and they're going through the tough part of building and forming, I guess, a dynamic that's going to really live on for as long as the business does.
So that how you're going to work together piece.
Yeah, and working out. And it's same with marriage, right? Same with marriage, for sure. And I guess when you were talking about the aha moment, I was talking to a friend the other day about how moving physical location can massively help you in terms of creating that unlock. Because we were talking about, when, stuff hits the fan, then you're forced to change. But also you can have voluntary, I've moved location, and all of a sudden my brain is free of the previous anchors, perhaps.
Yep.
Yeah.
You could just quit your job.
You could.
Yeah, that's
a massive change.
Been there, done that. It's exciting, but I wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah.
No, I now say to people, look, honestly, keep your job for absolutely as long as you can. Work on this thing on the side after hours. Build cash flows, right? And start to generate that cash flow. And when the cash flow from your business or side hustle or whatever it is you're working on
is X percentage of your income.
Exactly. Then you're in a safer position to cut the strings and go for it, especially if you're parents and all that kind of stuff.
I think that's pretty cool to talk about, right? Because that comes down to personal finance as well, which we're extremely passionate about. And setting yourself up so you can give it a good go. And having a job and keeping that primary income is a way for you to kind of by default stay in the game because the biggest problem in business and in any endeavor, like if you're trying to become an artist, you're trying to, learn something difficult, play a sport, etc., staying in the game, remain training, remain learning is like obviously the primary factor of ultimate success. And it's fun and sexy to be like, I'm quitting my job and going all in. And it does force, I guess, some level of kind of urgency. But then again, making sure you are in a financial situation or enabling that as best you can so that you can go the long haul, because it always takes longer than you expect.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's so easy for us to do ourselves a financial injury that potentially puts us out of the game forever. Right? And this is about self-awareness and learning how to take appropriate risks for your level. Like you're learning how to ski or snowboard, you don't go immediately to the black run
the
on the
advanced,
mountain. No, you go to the green, the beginner slope, right, or the learner plateau, and you build that. And then as you progress, now it's safer for you to go on these more, take on these bigger, challenging runs. And same in business in some ways. I know many people start businesses later in life, having been in the corporate world as an employee, decide that they need to make the transition to go and chase their dream to own that restaurant or build out whatever business, and then they put everything they've got into it, leverage themselves up, and again, because they're just a beginner, right? You're probably going to make some mistakes. You're going to get a scraped knee. And it's quite a risky thing if you don't know what you're doing. After you've done this a few times, you've started a few different ventures and you've had experience building some out, then that enables you to take those skills with you forever. And so you de-risk, because you are, as founders, we are our own biggest risk to the business success. Your business can't outgrow you. So
right. That's cool.
You got to keep working on yourself, and so build that entrepreneurial muscle.
I love how you describe it as a muscle, right? Yeah, the build it and the constant growth and learning. So with everything that you've kind of been through, in terms of building your businesses, moving on, and then helping founders and that kind of thing, what have you done to make sure that you've looked after yourself from that more holistic point of view? Or have you?
Well, to be honest, I haven't really. And that became apparent a couple of years ago when I had basically a bit of a nervous breakdown in a board meeting in Queenstown. And that sort of alerted me for the first time that maybe I wasn't being that good to myself. And been on that journey sort of since as to how did I get there? What led me to put myself in that position? Totally burnt out. Anyone who's been through that will know what I'm talking about here. I thought I was looking after myself, right? And the one thing I can always say, hand on heart, is I've been lucky enough to always feel like I am in charge of what I'm working on at any one time.
Okay.
Right, so I've never, over the 20 odd years, never felt like I wish I was doing something else. Right, whereas I know a lot of people, especially employees, you turn up to work because you need the paycheck, and it's a bit interesting, but would you really want to be there if you had the choice? And for me, I feel lucky to be able to say I've loved every moment of it, and I've always wanted to be right where I have been on the journey. So that's good, but then there's simple things like working too much, having your expectations of yourself misaligned, unhealthy. If you're any sort of high performer or goal getter, look, we're human beings. We're not robots, and if you keep pushing it for too long, it's almost inevitable that there will be repercussions, health-wise, maybe mental health-wise, potentially relationships So some fun things I do though, play a lot of disc golf.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's
Golf with
okay.
frisbees,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So got big into that when I was living in Wanaka. Getting out in nature, and do a bit of very amateur DJing. Love my music.
Cool.
Try and exercise. Spend time with family. Be grateful. Have quiet time. I think finding some quiet time every day, is super important for all of us.
What advice would you give to someone who is currently going through burnout?
Don't fight it. If you're going through burnout, don't fight it.
Yep.
Like, it sucks, but accept it. Life is trying to teach you something. There's gold in that.
Yep.
Right. If you listen to the lessons, and if you seek the lesson that came from it. So be kind to yourself. Don't try and hurry the process to get back to it. And it's incredibly difficult to do. You've got the pressure of life.
Yeah.
We can't afford to just take 6 months off, most of us.
Yeah.
Right. Just because we need it. We've got to keep the wheels turning. We've got to keep our families fed and roofs over our heads. So, given that, at the same time, I say don't rush the process. Use it as an opportunity to look deeply within and look for the causes, be it lifestyle, pressures that you've just been under for so long, and maybe there's some things you need to learn about the way you've been living. Maybe it's about putting your foot down in terms of certain areas of your life.
Yeah.
I will no longer put up with this. It's detrimental. So it's an opportunity to build yourself back again stronger.
Okay.
So hang in there.
Yeah. Good advice. What kind of legacy, I suppose, are you wanting to leave for your girls from your journey?
Well, the first thing I want to leave them with is the ability and knowledge and the confidence within themselves that they can build out any business or venture that they want to, if that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not absolutely if they don't have to be entrepreneurs at all, but I think they're both quite entrepreneurial as it happens. So firstly, just the understanding, knowledge, and confidence to be able to chase those dreams and execute on those visions, and by doing that at a greater scale for more Kiwis. I want to help 50,000 New Zealanders over the next 10 years.
That's cool.
Learn how to start businesses.
Yeah.
Right, because our country needs that. We need more entrepreneurial Kiwis. Actually, at the very beginning of the value creation process and innovation. Hopefully that will build a more prosperous country, better, more prosperous communities, help grow the tax base so that we can have a better, quality of care for those who need it. Basically a better, better country. So that's what I hope, to leave with in some small way.
Yeah. Okay.
Still not entirely sure how to do it, but.
Well, that was my next question. So when we started talking, you were like, I'm 10% of the way there. So what does 50% look like?
That's a really good question. In other words, I am thinking about it right now to try and figure out what 50% looks like. What's 50% of infinity?
Oh.
So is 100% 50,000 Kiwis?
What? No, that's 50%.
That's
Okay.
Let's get some numbers here.
Okay.
Yeah, 10 years, 50,000, and then another 10 years, I'll double it again.
Nice.
To me, again, 100% is when I breathe my last breath.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not a great answer.
It's all right. But it's your answer, right? Yeah.
Exactly. It's what it means to us, and all of our journeys are personal. They're what makes us sing, tick. Keeps us going. So
Brilliant.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate you taking the time.
all good.
And sharing the knowledge.
It's fun.
You've got so much knowledge to share. So thank you.
Just made a lot of mistakes.
But that's how you learn,
Unreal.
right?
Yeah.